exactly.
So Jon Hamm joins us now on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline. So let's start there, John. Why are most players signing long-term deals? What's your thought on that? Most players that you think that you thought maybe going in might roll the dice and sign a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal with a player option for that second year. Why are they doing that, signing the long-term deal instead when the cap money is going to increase significantly in 12 months?
Jimmy Butler talked about, there was some news leaked out that, you might want to take a 2-year deal with a 1 option and get back into free agency. And, Kevin Love might do the same thing. And it's one thing to talk big about that until someone actually lays down 5 years and $100 million in your lap. And then you've got to think, if I have one bad season, if I blow out a knee, if something happens, I may not be able to recoup this. It's an awfully large risk to take.
It's amazing.
It sounds great in theory. I mean, it's sound financial advice. But in reality, whenever you're sitting there looking at those numbers and realizing that I'm set for 5 years, no matter what, that's awfully hard to walk away from.
Yeah, I feel like we have reached. Would this be saying too much that we have reached a spot in the NBA where the money is so eye-popping that maybe the money is ahead of the game in terms of comparing it to how much these players are actually worth?
Yeah, I think maybe a lot of guys are like, that's plenty. I can get more, and there's some guys that should go out and get as much as they can, the superstars in this league. But, I think for a lot of guys, they're probably looking at it in terms of the money they've been making all along and saying, hey, yeah, that's plenty. Sure, I could get another 20 or 30 million if I'm willing to take that risk, but I'm good. That's kind of what I saw yesterday.
Well, what do you think will be the domino effect of stuff like this, where good players, not all of them are great players, but a lot of good players, see Kawhi Leonard, are signing a max deal in the old cap at the old cap number, at the old max deal number. What will be the domino effect in years down the road that we will see from deals being signed like this today and yesterday?
Yeah, we look at a deal like Kawhi Leonard, and you look at it now, and maybe your first reaction is he's not a max player. So, some people may have that. I know he was a Finals MVP, but he's also never made an All-Star team or an All-NBA team. First reaction might be he's not worth it. And again, we're thinking in terms of today's money. But that max deal next year is going to be a smaller percentage of what an actual maximum salary contract is. So this is why teams are eager to lock up these guys for 4 and 5 years now, as opposed to waiting and doing it again here in a couple of years. The domino effect, you're going to have, probably you're going to have a lot of guys chasing after those max deals in a year or two, and teams are going to say, yeah, you're not max worthy. You are old money max worthy. You could see some of that, I think.
Jon Hamm is with us here on 107.7 The Franchise. I think everyone calls people like you a capologist, and I think the cap doctor would be better for Jon Hamm.
I'll take that.
Why?
Is that okay?
Like, why?
Just to be different.
Okay. All right.
I figured you'd be okay with that because you are the hipster.
Well,
I just, you'd be okay with
I
being
just wondered
different.
if you had any sound reasoning behind it, and you don't. So that's fine, yeah.
Because when we have cap problems, we call the cap doctor.
That's right, we do.
When we don't understand the cap, we call the
totally
doctor.
we have totally been showing our ignorance to John all week. We've been texting him questions and calling him. I mean, it's been so great.
No,
anyway,
John, I was going to ask you, I said this earlier, and maybe you'll agree and I'll sound brilliant, or maybe you'll disagree and I'll sound normally, just like I normally do, which is stupid. But does the Nick Collison deal, 2 years, right around $8 million, does it look better knowing now what we know with NBA free agency? Because at the time, you heard a lot of people say, is Nick Collison really worth that much?
Oh, I only heard what Sam Mays and Jerry Ramsey say that over and over, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, if Jerry Ramsey says it, never mind. I should have just listened to Jerry.
He's so smart. He's so smart. The basketball show co-host 9 to 10.
That's right, Saturday mornings. Podcast going to be recorded tomorrow because July 4th we're not working.
There you go.
So whenever that deal was signed, I remember eyeballs popping out all over the place and heads exploding. And yeah, that's why people didn't quite realize we were trying to get the message out there. Like, this is not a bad deal under the new money. Again, everything we're seeing now, up until now, I feel like has been like a trailer for the action movie. We know a big action movie is coming next year. It's going to be a bonanza. We're kind of seeing a trailer for that now with all the deals that have been signed, because a lot of them are signed with the new money in mind. So the Nick Collison deal was never a big thing at all. Because let's say they didn't sign him to that deal, his contract expired, and he left and went somewhere else. Well, they would have had roughly that same amount of money to replace him with, right? So, it was a wash either way, and for a number of other reasons, including loyalty and whatnot, they wanted to go ahead and get that done, and it was not like some major millstone around their neck, and never was.
Jon Hamm with us on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline, our NBA cap doctor and Thunder insider here on 107.7 The Franchise. How would you put the Singler contract and the money that he got and the years that he got too into context with this new money?
I was a little surprised it turned out to be 5 years, but I understand why, and especially that last year is a team option. So.
I don't. Can you explain it to me? I don't object to the money. But the amount of years is that just a way to appease him? Just sign this. I mean, what is this? I don't get it.
Yeah, I've always thought that these deals, coming into the summer, were going to be in order to buy you long term and lock you up at a lower price. Because again, when the salary cap goes from $67 million to $90 million to $100 to $108, that $5 million is going to be paltry. So in order to buy your commitment for 5 years, we're going to have to pay you a little bit more, so that way we can keep you locked up at a low price for a number of years. And then, if things go south after 4 years, we can just decline your option and be done after 4 years. They can waive and stretch that money if they need to, or that contract should be really tradable if it comes down to that. So, again, I kind of thought it was going to be like a 3 or 4 year deal, just kind of given the role he was going to play, given his age. I thought, well, I don't think they're going to want to go beyond 30 or 31 years old with him. But, they locked him up for the full 5, and that's fine. And it seems like to me like maybe a bit of an overpay in year 1. But going forward on the subsequent years, again, $5 million is going to be, your typical, like what Anthony Morrow signed for last year, like that $3.3 million. It's going to be the equivalent of that, more or less.
Jon Hamm with us. Why? Well, let's do this. Cantor's eventual deal, which if not the max contract, will be close to it. In 2 years, when this cap is up to the 9-digit range, Cantor's deal will be comparable to whom?
I have drawn comparisons in the past to him and Al Jefferson in Charlotte. They're both, not just the fact that they both came out of the Utah system, but, primarily offensive-minded big men who are really good around the basket, really good offensive players that need a lot of work defensively. And he got a deal for around $12, $13 million to play in Charlotte. So if we assume that Cantor gets something in that $14 to $15 million range, it seems equivalent to like an Al Jefferson deal under the new salary cap, which is a good deal. So, and especially yesterday, Omer Oshik, I guess, got 5 years and 60. And I think, well, it might have even been that last year's non-guaranteed. It might have been like guaranteed 4 and 45. So, if I'm Cantor's camp, I'm pointing at that and saying that we need to get higher than that. So
right.
Maybe that's where some of these negotiations are drawing out just a little bit.
Crazy. What else do the Spurs have to do at this point and I have kept my eye on it just because the Spurs, they feel like, if not the Thunder's biggest rival, quite high up there. What else do the Spurs have to do to make room for Aldridge? And if you do in fact see that happening?
Mm-hmm. It looks like we're headed down that path. I know Phoenix got into the mix here. The problem with Phoenix is they don't have the salary cap room. If they use that or they're going to use that to sign Tyson Chandler. So they are either going to have to dump a bunch of salaries like Sacramento stupidly did last time, or they're going to have to convince Portland to do a sign and trade. And I don't know, does Portland really want the Morris twins? Would they be just better off with just letting Aldridge go than taking on whatever Phoenix is offering them? So I'm not ruling Phoenix out. I'm just saying it's not really as easy as San Antonio, because the Spurs, they look like they are in the driver's seat. So the big question there was a report that came out right before free agency started from Ken Berger at CBS that said the salary cap may actually go from 67 to 69 million. It could inch up a little bit, but no one is getting confirmation from the league office for this. Everyone is going out and shopping without knowing what the actual budget is going to be. So if it winds up closer to 69, they could probably squeeze everything in, but there's the possibility that they may have to dump Patty Mills on somebody, or they may have to decide not to bring back Corey Joseph. They might have to make a small decision like that, but they shouldn't have to do anything like really drastic to get everyone to come in and fit under the salary cap.
Dr. Jon Hamm joins us here on 107.7 The Franchise. Doctor of Capology, I believe, is the field in which he studies. John,
Mike Sherman one time referred to me as the civilian capologist.
The civilian capologist. That's so great. Not anymore. Not anymore, Ham. Not anymore. Everybody has started to scoop you up now.
So, John, we look at some of these rumors we're getting and then deals that are being agreed to in principle or signed now. And I know there are a lot of teams that it seems like they get it. The Thunder are one that obviously they get it cap-wise. It's part of the reason for their success. Is there any team that's worse right now than Sacramento at getting it, what's going on in the NBA?
Oh, my gosh. I could not believe when I woke up this morning and scrolled through my Twitter feed and said they did what? They gave up what? Here's a little bit of context. A few years ago, Golden State did a massive salary dump where they dumped a bunch of contracts on Utah and gave up draft picks. But that was to get Andre Iguodala. And if we go down the checklist, check, former All-Star, check, U.S. Olympian, check, defensive swingman, check, good locker room guy. I mean, you go down the list, and that just made all sorts of sense. And, the San Francisco-Oakland area is an area that is typically attracted free agents without much trouble. In Sacramento, if you're not a free agent hotspot, so you can't give up assets on the hope that you say, okay, now we have cap room, come join us, and guys could say, yeah, never mind, I was just using you. It just blows my mind, and the ownership there is more and more. It's obvious if it wasn't already. The ownership of Vivek Ranadive is just, I don't know what kind of ship he's running there, and who knows? Everyone could be fired in 2 weeks, and he could start all over again. It's that batty there right now. It's just insane.
No coincidence. That's the same franchise that thought about playing 4-on-5 defensively.
Yeah.
They actually considered that.
All excited about that.
Yeah.
All right, John. If anything else pops up, feel free to holler at us if anything comes to mind.
Have a great 4th of July and enjoy a Hamm's. If you tweet yourself a picture of you holding a Hamm's beer.
Seriously, we have got to stop with that stuff. I mean, it's not like he was just given that name 2 months ago.
But look, that is the equivalent of the two worlds colliding that we had the other day when Jon Hamm was on live with Kelly and Michael at the exact same time he was on live with Zach and Todd.
He has had to deal with these double entendres with his name for his entire life.
I bet he gets the Hamm's beer reference way less than the Mad Men reference.
It's a hack.
This is true. This is very true.
The whole thing is hacky, though. The whole thing is yes or no, Ham. The whole thing is hacky. All of this double entendre stuff.
I'm a Cardinals fan. I'm good at hacking.
Yeah, yes or no, Ham. It's hacky.
After 39 years, it just bounces
yes,
off of me.
Yes, he is 39 years old, Todd. Let it go. Good talking to you, John.
Thanks, guys.
All right, man. I just feel bad for him. It's painful for him. He probably goes, he always has to do the fake laugh. Like if I'm Jon Hamm, ask me the Hamm's question real quick. The Hamm's beer. Go ahead.
Jon Hamm, are you going to have a Hamm's beer spelled the same?
Yeah. Like, that's how I feel he wants to answer it. But he's such a nice guy. It's like, oh, well, yeah, of course. And he puts a little bit of
As we mentioned
Pizzazz
last time we had him on, at least his name's not Michael Bolton. It could be worse.
That's right. This is true.
Or Randy Heights.